There are roads in this country that feel older than the concrete they're paved with. They wind through hills that have seen more than man ever will, under skies so dark you can feel the weight of the stars. I've driven most of them. For 30 years, my Kenworth has been my home. The rumble of the diesel, my heartbeat, and the chatter on the CB, my only company on those long, lonely nights. You hear things out here, stories. Some are tall tales to pass the miles. Some are jumps, but some are different. They're spoken in hushed tones at 3 a.m. in a greasy spoon diner, or crackled over the radio when you're deep in the static-filled guts of nowhere. They're warnings disguised as legends. And the darkest one I ever heard, the one that still makes the hair on my arm stand up, is the one about a stretch of I-64 in West Virginia. Specifically, about a bridge. They don't give it a fancy name. To us, it's just the Grayback Bridge. It's an old steel trestle bridge, painted a dull, rust-streaked gray that blends into the fog that permanently chokes the deep gorge it spans. The woods there are thick, ancient, the kind of place where sunlight struggles to hit the ground, a place that feels watchful. The story goes like this. Something lives under that bridge. The old-timers, the guys who are running these roads when I was still in diapers, they're the ones who started the talk. They called it the canner, but the younger guys started calling it Spider-Man. Not the hero kind. This thing, they say, is big, and it's hungry. They say it has the body of a spider the size of a small car, but the face is what gets you. They say it's a pale, smooth, human face. No hair, no expression, just two dark pits for eyes.
Most guys laugh it off, a story to spook the rookies. But the proof, they say, comes from above. You'll be driving under the bridge, usually late at night in the fog. You won't see a thing, but you'll hear a soft thump on the roof of your trailer. Then, a second later, something wet and thick will slap against your windshield. It's not rain, not mud. It's a string of webbing, sticky and strong as steel wire. You hit the wipers and it just smears, making it impossible to see. You have to pull over and scrape the damn stuff off. But that's not the worst part. The worst part is what you find in the morning. When you do your pre-trip inspection, you look up at the roof of your trailer and you see them. Scratches. Deep, gouging scratches in the aluminum, usually 3 at a time, like a giant claw. It looks for all the world like something tried to peel the roof off your trailer, like it was trying to open you up, like a can.
I'd heard the story a dozen times, laughed at it even. Just another ghost story for the road, an overactive imagination fueled by too much coffee and not enough sleep. But then, a new contract came in, a priority shipment of electronics from Richmond to Lexington. The fastest route, the one the dispatchers insisted on, it went straight through the heart of West Virginia, straight under the Grayback Bridge. And the delivery window meant I'd be hitting it right around midnight.
The drive into West Virginia is always a strange one. You leave the flatlands behind and the world just rises up around you. The hills roll in like a green tide, getting steeper, darker. The roads start to twist and turn, hugging the sides of mountains. It's beautiful in the daylight, but at night, it's claustrophobic. The towering trees press in on both sides, their branches like skeletal fingers reaching for your cab. The fog begins to roll in off the rivers, thick and soupy, swallowing your headlights until you can only see 20 feet in front of you. My radio, which had been buzzing with idle chatter all through Virginia, started to die out. The further I went into those mountains, the more the static took over, until it was just a low hiss. The loneliness sinks in deep out there. I know I was getting close to the bridge. The air got colder, the fog impossibly thick. My GPS showed it was less than a mile away. I felt a knot tighten in my stomach. It's stupid, I told myself, but I couldn't shake the feeling of being watched.
Then I saw it. The dark, skeletal frame of the Grayback Bridge loomed out of the fog ahead. It was bigger and more imposing than I'd imagined. a black web of rusty steel against the gray nothingness. There were no other cars on the road, just me. The hum of my tires on the wet pavement was the only sound. I took a deep breath and drove into the shadow of the bridge. For a few seconds, the world was just the concrete pillars rushing past my window and the immense, dark underbelly of the structure overhead. My eyes were glued to the road, but my ears were straining, listening for anything. And then I heard it. Thump. It wasn't loud. It was a soft, heavy, wet sound, like a bag of sand being dropped on the roof of my trailer from a few feet up. My heart leaped into my throat. It sounded organic.
A split second later, something hit my windshield. Splat! A thick, grayish-white glob, about the size of my fist, smacked the glass right in my line of sight. Trailing from it was a long, ropey strand that draped over the hood. Instinctively, I hit the wipers. It was a mistake. The blades just smeared the substance into an opaque, greasy film. It was like trying to wipe away glue. Panic surged through me. I couldn't see. I was doing 60 miles an hour, blind. I slammed on the brakes, the air brakes hissing, the trailer groaning behind me. I fumbled for the washer fluid, spraying it again and again. Slowly, painfully, it cleared, just enough for me to see the white line on the shoulder. I wrestled the rig over and brought it to a shuddering halt, my whole body trembling.
I sat there for a minute, the engine idling, my heart hammering against my ribs. I had to get that stuff off my windshield. I grabbed a rag and my scraper, my hands shaking as I opened the cab door. I cleaned the glass, my back to the bridge, refusing to look at it. The substance was like nothing I'd ever seen. It was fibrous and incredibly sticky, and it smelled faintly of rot and damp earth. When the glass was clean, I got back in, locked the doors, and drove. I didn't stop until I saw the bright lights of a truck stop 60 miles down the road. As I fueled up, an old driver with a long gray beard and tired eyes walked past. He glanced at the front of my truck, then up at me. "Looks like you brought a little souvenir back from the Grayback," he said. "Be sure to check your roof in the morning. Sometimes he likes to leave a mark." He just walked away, leaving me standing there, the knot in my stomach now a block of ice. I didn't sleep well that night. I told myself the thump was a chunk of ice, and the gunk on my windshield was from a bird, a very, very big bird. But I didn't believe a word of it. The sun was just starting to burn the fog away when I finally gave up on sleep. It was time for my pre-trip inspection. I do it every day, same routine. But this time there was a sick dread in the pit of my stomach. I was saving the trailer for last. I walked the length of the 53-foot trailer. Everything looked normal. Finally, there was nothing left to check. I walked to the back, tilted my head up, and looked at the roof. My coffee cup slipped from my hand and shattered on the ground.
There they were. 3 long, parallel gouges dug deep into the thin aluminum skin of a trailer's roof. They started near the middle and ran about 10 feet toward the back. These weren't surface-level scuffs. The metal was curled back at the edges of the grooves, gleaming in the weak morning sun. It looked exactly like someone had taken a giant 3-pronged rake and tried to tear the roof open. The sheer force it must have taken made me feel sick. I felt a cold sweat break out on my forehead. The old-timer's words echoed in my head. This wasn't a mark. This was a statement. This was a message that said, I was here. I can get to you. This thin metal box won't protect you. I spent the next week in a haze. On the drive back, I took a detour that added 6 hours to my trip, just to avoid that stretch of I-64. At truck stops, I started listening. I heard more about the Grayback Bridge. One guy told a story about a driver hauling produce whose trailer was covered in that same sticky, web-like substance inside. Another story was about a driver who vanished on that road in the 70s. They found his rig parked on the shoulder. A quarter-mile past the bridge, the driver was gone. The only thing out of place was the roof on his trailer. It was peeled open like a sardine can.
The stories made it worse. The detail that kept coming back was about the face. A driver who quit swore he caught a glimpse of it. A human face on a body that was all wrong. I became obsessed. I needed to know. I felt like I was going crazy, but I also felt like I had to prove I wasn't. When my dispatcher called a few weeks later with another run, a rush job carrying medical supplies, I knew what I had to do. The route was from Baltimore to Louisville. The fastest way was right under the Grayback Bridge. "I'll take it," I said, my voice steady, but my heart was a frantic drum. This time, I wasn't going to be surprised. This time, I was going to be ready. This time, I was going to see it for myself.
Preparing for that drive was like getting ready for war. I went to a hardware store and bought the most powerful handheld spotlight I could find and mounted it on my dashboard, aimed up at the passenger side ceiling. I also went to the truck supply store and bought a new dash cam, a dual camera system. One lens for the road ahead, and another I mounted on my passenger side mirror, pointing it up at a high angle aimed right at the roof of my trailer. I wanted proof that I wasn't losing my mind.
The drive back into West Virginia was different this time. The dread was still there, but it was mixed with a strange, nervous energy. I wasn't a victim anymore. I was a hunter. The fog rolled in right on schedule. The radio died. The world went quiet. As I neared the Grayback Bridge, I killed my music. I rolled down my window just a crack. My right hand rested on the spotlight. The dark skeleton of the bridge rose out of the fog. My heart hammered against my ribs. I slowed the rig down to about 45. "Come on, you son of a bitch," I whispered into the silence of the cab. "Show me you're real."
I passed under the edge of the bridge. The darkness enveloped me. I counted the seconds. 1, 2, 3, thud. It was heavier this time, a solid, meaty impact that I felt through the whole frame of the cab. And then I heard something else. A dry, scraping, clicking sound, like giant insects skittering across the metal roof. I didn't hesitate. I grabbed the spotlight, thumbed the switch, and shoved it out the passenger window, aiming the beam straight up. The light cut a brilliant white cone through the fog and darkness, illuminating the rusty girder-covered underbelly of the bridge. And for one horrifying, eternal second, I saw it.
It wasn't a spider. It wasn't a man. It was something in between. It was clinging to the steel beams directly above my trailer, its body a dark, bulbous shape. It had too many limbs, long and jointed like a crab's, ending in hooked claws. But that wasn't what made me scream. It was the face. The spotlight hit it dead on. It was a perfectly round, bone-white, and smooth plate of flesh. There was no nose, no mouth, no expression. Just two black, fathomless holes where eyes should be. It was the face of a mannequin from hell, and it was staring right down at me. As I stared, frozen in horror, one of its long limbs detached from the bridge and slammed down onto the roof of my trailer with incredible speed. There was a deafening crunch of tearing metal. Then the thing recoiled, pulling itself back into the deepest shallows of the bridge. The spell was broken. I dropped the spotlight, threw the wheel, and floored it. The engine roared, and the Kenworth shot out from under the bridge like a cannonball. I just drove, my foot pressed to the floor, my mind screaming, replaying that single, impossible image over and over again. When I finally pulled into a massive, brightly lit travel center in Ohio, I stumbled out of my cab on legs made of rubber. The new damage was horrifying. Right on the roof of my sleeper cab was a massive dent. In the center were two deep punctures, the metal torn and jagged. I climbed into the cab and checked the dash cam. The camera aimed at the roof had recorded a single, nightmarish frame, a blurry, distorted close-up of that pale, featureless face. It was all the proof I needed, and it was proof I would never show to another living soul.
I pulled the memory card out and crushed it under the heel of my boot.
That was my last run through West Virginia. I refused any route that took me within 100 miles of that bridge. That was 15 years ago. I'm an old-timer myself now. I don't tell this story often. Most people wouldn't believe it. But sometimes, when I'm at a truck stop late at night and I see some young kid looking over a map, I'll see his finger trace that line across I-64. And I'll wander over and I'll sit down, order a coffee, and I'll tell him a story, a legend, about a bridge, and about the things that wait in the dark places of this country. It's just a story, I always finish by saying. Something to keep you awake on the long hauls. But they see it in my eyes. They see I'm not just telling a story. I'm giving a warning. Because out here, on these roads, some of us carry the weight of knowing what lives under the Grayback Bridge, and the chilling memory of the night it tried to open us up just to see what was inside.